Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 136 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Mr. Ayaz. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend. Very good. It's not just the two of us. We are a trio this week. We're joined also by our US correspondent, Miss Mimi Melendez. Mimi, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Very, very good. Ayaz is good also. Right, let's waste no more time. Let's dive straight into the reviewing. Let's start, though, in a place called the Town Hall in Malvern, Australia. Just two fights to mention on this bill, by the way. Two twin brothers. You know, they're not just twins in terms of, actual brothers being twins, but they actually have twin records as well. They're both now 17-0. Both of them picked up wins here. Jason Maloney moved, like I say, to 17-0. It was a retirement against a guy called Kohei Kono, who's really been around the block, the Japanese fighter. He actually retired on his stall after 6 rounds. He didn't come out for round 7. I believe he was cut quite badly on his eye, and his corner decided to stop it, so that's quite unusual, I suppose. That one was for the WBA Oceania Bantamweight title, but the other brother, Andrew Maloney, he defended his WBA Oceania Super Flyweight title against Richard Claveras, and he moved to, like I say, 17-0, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. It's crazy there. Two twins, exactly the same wins on their resume, exactly the same number of fights, and they've both got exactly the same title, but two different weights. It is quite remarkable. Moving over now, though, to a big one that happened at the Air Canada Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Let's start with the undercard. 1 or 2 fights to mention. No, just the one, actually. Oscar Rivas, the heavyweight, 23-0. He's now 24-0. A unanimous decision over 10 rounds. He successfully defended his NABF heavyweight title. In the other corner, a man called Herve Herbu, who was 29-2. 2 losses, though. Both distance losses. He hadn't been knocked out, and I was expecting something quite impressive from Oscar Rivas, but unfortunately he did not show us that at all. He's the guy that's, I think he was an Olympian. He's Colombian, but he's based in Canada now, and it wasn't very impressive. It was a bit hard, really, to actually stay interested in that fight. He seemed to just kind of coast it, really. A unanimous decision over 10 rounds there for Oscar Rivas. But the main event here, a very, very much drama-filled main event, and also a fight that we've all been looking forward to since the minute it got made. Adonis Stevenson in one corner, 29-1 going in, taking on Badou Jack, 22-1 with 2 draws. The WBC World Light Heavyweight title was at stake, that of course being Adonis Stevenson's title. I'm going to start with you first, Mimi. What a fight it was that we were expecting, and what a great fight it turned out to be in the end.
Yeah, the Stevenson-Jack fight was very interesting. We saw in the beginning rounds that Stevenson was basically initiating the action. You see a lot of evasive reactions from Jack. Jack, I guess, was like being very, very wary of that left hand with good reason. It was a slow round, but out of the two, the first round out of the two, Stevenson was the busier round, so I gave him that round. In round 2, again, Stevenson was keeping Jack on the outside, not letting him come inside. He was super careful of his left again. And he hit Stevenson with great on a flush overhand right. And you could see that he was trying to time Stevenson as well. Still was a slow round, but I gave it to Stevenson. Round 3, there was a lot of jabbing from Stevenson. He was trying to, use the jabs, find his range. Jack landed to the body a couple times, landed some solid rights. He was starting to let his hands go at this point. Still, I gave the round to Stevenson. Round 4, Stevenson came out, landing combos, but then we just saw Jack we started to see Jack come out of his shell a little bit, He was landing, the jab and the straight right. And he did this really, really sharp 1-2 that I was just, really shocked with. And but I still gave Stevenson that round because he was the busier of the two for about the first 4 rounds. Round 5, Stevenson was still keeping busy, but you just saw a lot of tying up at this point. I don't know if it was, him starting to get fatigued a little bit, but I did find that he was tying up a lot more than the first 4 previous rounds, and Jack landed some nice hooks to the body. Still, I gave Jack that round because I felt like Jack was, a little bit more precise out of the two. Round 6, we have Stevenson, still walking him down, but he still was, he wasn't as active as he was the first previous rounds. And then also I did find that Jack started landing combos at that point. So in my opinion, I felt like Jack won that round as well. Round 7, we see a lot of open mouth breathing from Stevenson. He just seemed to be fading at this point, which is what Jack's, corner's plan was to let him fade so that way Jack could come in strong in the second half. Because we all know that Jack is, he's known for being a slow starter. So we saw, Stevenson fading. Then we saw Jack come in with, great combos. He was actually becoming the busier of the two at this point. He was picking and choosing his shots wisely, and he was hitting behind Stevenson's guard, which was really clever. I gave round 7 to Jack as well. In round 8, this is where we saw a lot of the ref interfering a lot. I felt like the ref was breaking them up for no reason. Stevenson kept holding a lot. And then we did see the bloody nose start from Stevenson and, him bleeding at the mouth. Jack at that point was landing at will. He was landing really sharp right hands, and he was tearing up the body. I gave Jack that round as well. And then round 9, you just saw a lot of Stevenson just trying to survive at this point. He was really fatigued, and you just saw a steady decline in him at this point. He was just trying to survive. He wasn't really fighting. Jack came out, confident and strong. He was upping the pressure on Stevenson. Stevenson's corner started complaining that Stevenson should complain to the referee about something. I wasn't really sure why. I think they realized that, their fighter was fading, and they were just trying to get the ref to interrupt any of, especially the body onslaught that Jack was putting on him. I gave round 9 to Jack as well. In round 10, again, Stevenson was just hanging on, just playing the survival game at this point. But then, Stevenson caught Jack with a body shot. And that body shot had Jack hunched over. He was visibly in pain, and he was trying to stay up. And you just saw a second wind enter Stevenson because of this. He saw Jack was hurt, that Jack was in trouble. He tried his best to finish him off, but, he couldn't finish Jack off at all. And, Jack was really extremely hurt. Oh, and also the ref warned Jack for low blows. Also, a couple low blows that he claimed were low blows that landed on Stevenson. Jack was also visibly hurt, so he hugged on to Stevenson. And then we saw the ref, screaming at him to not hold. That round could have gone to either one because the really effective shot was that body shot that Stevenson landed on him. And it made him basically incapable of, getting any offense going. He was just kind of hunched over, holding onto his body, making sure that, Stevenson wouldn't attack the same area twice. Round 11. Again, we saw Stevenson still on that second wind. He came out strong. You saw Jack leaning forward. He was trying to, rip the body. And I felt like at the second half of the 11th round, Jack kind of stole the round from Stevenson because it was Stevenson's in the beginning. But then we saw Jack, it seemed like he kind of recovered from that body shot that he had received. And he was just, basically, he took over the second half. So in my opinion, he stole that round, which was the 11th round. 12th round was pretty much, again, Stevenson holding, lots of holding from Stevenson. He was really obviously fatigued and tired. Jack was initiating a lot of the action at that point. I felt like Jack had round 12. Also, and not to mention the ref, he got a nice little hit from Jack as well. And he took it like a champ, by the way. So, that was another interesting thing because Jack has a habit of, hitting a couple reps. So, that at the end, I thought that basically Jack won that round as well. However, it ended up a majority draw, 115-113 on one of the judges for Badu Jack. And then the other two judges had it basically even 114. So it ended up being a majority draw.
Yeah, another draw for Badou Jack. Excellent breakdown there, by the way, Mimi. I just want to go over a couple of things that I saw. I didn't actually really score the fight, but one thing that I will bring up, it was very interesting, I felt, at the weigh-in. I was very shocked to see how tall Jack looked standing next to Stevenson, considering, he's only just moved up to that weight. He seemed to be like the bigger guy. He seemed to be much bigger. But on the actual fight night, when you saw them both there just wearing shorts, you could see that, Jack was the slightly taller man, but Adonis has got that, that really much broader torso. He looks the much stronger. He looked the more defined in there. He actually looked in great shape, Adonis, especially when you take into account his age. He certainly seemed the solid of the two. Like I say, I wasn't really scoring it. I felt that the first round was very, very cagey. Neither man really committing at all. Not much landed there. The second round, I felt that Adonis was, that was when he was really starting to let his trademark 1-2 go a lot. He seemed to be getting closer and closer with it every time he threw it. Jack wasn't really staying in front of Stevenson. He was moving well. Both men respected each other. I felt that Badou was showing a little bit too much respect at times to Adonis Stevenson. Like I say, once again, I wasn't really scoring it, but the first sort of 4 or 5 rounds I felt were all quite close. I wasn't really seeing either man sort of win a round clearly at that point. I felt that Badou Jack would stay in the pocket, and he was becoming happy to trade with Stevenson, which I found quite ballsy. That was kind of happening about, midpoint of the fight, so to speak. Jack showed us a great chin, which is something that he's been knocked for before. I felt that the 6th round was a big Stevenson round at that point. Both men let their hands go in that round, but I felt that Stevenson got the better of that. In round 7, Jack came out and had an excellent round. He really did. Stevenson, I felt at times, was happy to kind of take one to land one, but obviously you don't want to be playing that game with a man like Stevenson. Badou wouldn't necessarily take the bait all the time when he was trying to do that. I think that Badou is an extremely smart fighter. I felt that in rounds 7 and 8, Stevenson looked in trouble. I think that he looked hurt and wobbly for moments of that. I felt that Badou was, of course, the much younger, fresher man. And since Stevenson had a great round 6, Badou did really well to come out in round 7 and 8 and up the pace. And he dominated pretty much for probably the next 3 rounds or so from round 7, 8 and 9. I think that in round 10, Jack was further wearing down Stevenson, really, but then, like you say, Mimi, Stevenson landed that peach of a body shot which visibly hurt Badou, and Badou didn't really disguise it very well. He seemed like he was clearly in trouble. Adonis then finished the 10th brilliantly, repeatedly going to the body of Jack, and I just don't understand how he was taking all those shots. He seemed very, very hurt, and he needed the bell. And in round 11, like I say, coming down to the last couple of words on this now, Stevenson was desperately going for it. He was piling on the pressure. Badou just couldn't seem to defend those body shots, and then out of nowhere, Badou Jack landed a right hand that seemed to stop Adonis's attack, and it just ended up being a brilliant round, that 11th round. In the 11th round, there was a lot of momentum switches. I can't really say who I felt won it. I think it was quite close. But in the 12th round, Stevenson, I think he probably won the first minute of the round. But I don't think he really... Well, we all know he didn't finish well. Badou certainly finished very, very well in that final round. And like you say, Ian John Lewis, the UK's referee, took a heavy-looking left hook off of Badou Jack. And for those that may not know, Ian John Lewis is a former professional boxer himself, and he got stopped 6 times out of his 7 losses. But I tell you what, that shot didn't rock him at all. So credit to Mr. Ian John Lewis. Took a punch from a world-level fighter and did not budge. Right, though, leaving Canada alone, just finally, like I say, Adonis Stevenson 29-1 with 1 draw. Badou Jack now 22-1 with 3 draws. He just seems to love a draw, Badou Jack. Moving over now, though, to Mexico at the Poliforum in Playa del Carmen. We've got one fight to mention over here. Former world title challenger, I think he may even be a 2-time world title challenger, Diego Magdaleno. A lot of people haven't really seen him since he lost in that unbelievable performance actually by Terry Flanagan. Anyway, Diego Magdaleno picked up win number 30. He's got 2 losses as well. It was a TKO in round 5 against a guy called Emmanuel Herrera, who had a very poor looking record. 4 wins and 3 losses. What a mismatch that was. That's it for Mexico. Moving over now though to Spain at the Comunidad Valenciana. There was one fight to mention over here. Mark Vidal, 11-1 with 4 draws, fought former world champion Kiko Martinez, 38-8 with 1 draw for the EBU European featherweight title. It ended up being, though, a technical draw after 3 rounds. I'm not sure what happened. I'm guessing it was probably a cut. They had to stop the fight and it went down as a technical draw. So if I'm not mistaken, I think that EBU European featherweight title, I think that is now still vacant. I don't think Mark Vidal was the champion before the fight. I should check. But I think it was vacant, so I think it will remain vacant now. So very unlucky there for Kiko Martinez. I thought he would have had that one in the bag. Moving over now, though, to Turkey. A man that fought over here, Firat Arslan, former world title challenger. I think he may have even held a belt for a while. I think so, maybe not. I know he fought Marco Huck a couple of times. He is actually 47, going on 48 years of age. He knocked out, though, in the very first round, a guy called Isaac Pakwesi Ankara, the man from Ghana. Nobody had actually heard of this guy before. 14-7 going in, now 14-8. A KO in the very first round for the man that is really getting on now. He's going to be 48 in a few months' time. His record now 42-8 with 2 draws. Firat Arslan. That's it from Turkey, though. Moving over now to Elland Road. This one, of course, in Leeds, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. A couple of fights on the undercard to run through quickly. What do we have? Jack Bateson moved to 6-0. It was a points win over Jose Hernandez. Mark Heffron moved to 19-0. It was a TKO in round 4 against Adam Grabich. O'Hara Davies made his debut with Frank Warren. He moved to 17-1. It was a points win over 6 rounds against Ahmed Ibrahim. He was 6-1 with 1 draw. A last minute kind of opponent change / replacement. Also, Leon Woodstock moved to 11-0. It was a points win over 8 rounds against Edwin Tellez. Darren Tetley, 15-0, took on Mason Cartwright, 13-0 with 1 draw. This one was for the vacant WBO European welterweight title. Now, Cartwright was down in the 8th round, and he was also cut on the lip. It was a real nasty cut on the lip. And in the end, the doctor actually had a look and decided to call the fight off, and rightly so. I don't know if you've seen what he looks like the following day. It's a real grim image, actually. His whole face is completely cut up. I'd just like to just drop a couple of notes on this fight really here. I felt very gutted for Mason Cartwright because, like I say, I felt he was winning the fight, and then he got controversially knocked down and he lost a 10-8 round, of course. But I felt on the replay, I could see that I felt the knockdown was fair, even though he seemed to say it was a slip. But anyway, when he got his lip split nastily and the doctor asked the referee to stop the fight, it was devastating for him because, like I say, he was probably winning the fight at that point. And that one punch that cut his lip, grossly cut his lip, by the way. It looked like someone had gone at his lips with a pair of scissors. It was real horrible to see. But that one punch that split his lip completely ended the fight pretty much. And it just goes to show how one punch can just completely end a fight. And unfortunately, it's a very unlucky way to lose your O there. So, all the very best to Mason Cartwright. I hope he recovers pretty quickly. His record now 13-1 with 1 draw. Darren Tetley had to come through some moments himself as well, so credit to him, now 16-0, the new WBO European welterweight champion. Also, Willie Hutchinson made his debut with Frank Warren here. It was, of course, I think it's his 4th fight now. Yes, he's moved to 4-0. It was a points win over 4 rounds against the very tough journeyman Adam Jones. Of course, Willie Hutchinson was on our show last week. I was very pleased for him because he was actually afloat and we weren't too sure if we were going to get to see his fight on TV, but because Nicola Adams and Jack Catterall's fights both ended in the first round by by knockout. They ended up having time to show Willie Hutchinson live on his Frank Warren debut. He completely dominated Adam Jones, to be honest. He was switch hitting, he was moving, he was showing off his punch variety. He actually made a seriously tough journeyman look very average, and he was able to win with extreme comfort, which is very rare. You don't see that often when Adam Jones is in the other corner against any kind of prospect, or to be honest, any fighter at any level. So a very comfortable win there for Willie Hutchinson. He looked very good doing it. Credit once again to Adam Jones, who has now racked up loss number 33, and he has not been stopped yet. So credit to that tough guy, who's also a window cleaner by trade, would you believe it. Moving up the bill once again, Jack Catterall 20-0 took on Christopher Sabaya 26-10 with one draw. This one was for the WBO Intercontinental Super Lightweight title. Now, Christopher Sabaya was supposed to be the guy that was taking on O'Hara Davies, but because of Jack Catterall's opponent pulling out, they needed a guy who was worthy of him defending his belt against. So they actually had to steal O'Hara Davies' opponent. Now, Sabaya came in 2 pounds over the weight limit. But yeah, very bizarre ending this one. Jack Catterall knocked the guy down, and this was in the first round, and as soon as the guy got up, after about 3 or 4, maybe 5-6 seconds, he seemed to claim some kind of shoulder injury that we couldn't really see. There's been no update on that. It looked like he kind of wanted a way out of that fight. It looked like he was quitting, really. So not the greatest win there, really. Not taking nothing away from Jack Catterall. He was very, very angry, actually. He was more frustrated than anyone. So, yeah, we didn't really get to see too much of him. His record now 21-0, a TKO in the very first round there. Nicola Adams, though, this one was controversial as well. She moved to 4-0. It was a TKO in the very first round against Soledad del Val Frias. I could be saying that horribly wrong. I should have probably got you to pronounce that one, Mimi. But yeah, this fight was a real crazy outcome, and what actually happened here was Nicola Adams knocked her opponent out in 2 minutes 46 seconds of a scheduled 2-minute round. So there was a bad mishap there on behalf of the timekeeper. I don't know what he was doing, but 2 minutes 46 is what it took for Nicola Adams to get rid of her opponent. Now, the mad thing is, of course, if the timekeeper was actually doing his job properly, the round would have ended at 2 minutes. So this girl would have had a 1 minute rest period before starting the second round. The moment that she actually got knocked out in, she should have been sitting on her stool. So that is just crazy, but it's just one of those things. Nicola Adams now 4-0. Of course, it wasn't nothing to do with her. She is marching on. She's a phenomenal fighter. I actually think I saw something online about she's only looking to fight professionally for 2 years from this point, which I find quite crazy, seeing as she's only had 4 fights. But I think she's about 33, something like that. Again, I'm not checking that. That is off the top of the brain. I will have to fact check that afterwards and possibly edit that out of the show if I'm wrong. But the main event here, Lee Selby, 26-1, defended his, or tried to defend, I should say, his IBF World Featherweight title. In the other corner, Josh Warrington, 26-0. It ended up being a split decision over 12 rounds in favour of Josh Warrington, and the new for him. Selby was cut over or above his left eye in the second round. It was a head clash, though, and he was also cut above the right eye in the 6th round. Now, this fight here, I'm going to try to whiz through my notes for this one, but I felt the first round was quite close. Warrington was certainly putting the pressure on Selby. I felt that he needed to do that pretty much. The speed was clearly with Warrington. I was kind of surprised how much the difference in speed really was. Warrington was by far the quicker fighter. Selby couldn't really get into his groove. The second round, Selby, of course, was cut by the head clash. He lost that round as well. Warrington was really going for it at that point. It was a very, very fast-paced fight. Selby was being made to fight, and it was very uncomfortable for him at that point. The third round, Selby got back to his boxing. He won the third round for me, and Warrington wasn't really able to get on his chest at that point. Selby was able to keep the distance. He was flicking out the jabs. He was throwing in the hooks. And then the fourth round, I felt, was a very, very close round that I think most people gave to Selby, but I actually gave to Warrington. Then the fifth round was another close round, but this time most people gave it to Warrington and I gave it to to Selby. So after 5, I had it 3-2 in favour of Warrington. Warrington, I felt, definitely got the 6th, which made it 4-2. And then in the 6th as well, the referee paused the fight momentarily to allow the doctor to inspect Lee Selby's cut. It was really weird because the referee actually had to explain what would happen should the female doctor stop the fight, which I've never seen before. Chris Sanagar, of course the trainer, and I think he's got 1 or 2 more roles in that Selby camp, he was illegally wiping the blood away from Lee Selby's face and arguing really, really badly with the referee, despite being told to step down from the corner. He wasn't having it, Chris Sanagar. Shout out to him, he's got his man's back for sure. In round 7, Selby had a fairly good round once again. I probably edged it to him. I think that would be 4-3 after 7 rounds. I gave the 8th round to Selby, so that made it 4-4. Unbelievable heart Selby showed us to keep going. I mean, the blood, they didn't do a great job with the blood in the corner, it has to be said. I felt that the 9th round was a very close round. Selby started off quite well in that round, but Warrington took over late on. It was a hard round to score. I'd probably edge it to the champion at that point. The 10th round I gave to Warrington, but again, it was a very close round, so that made it 5-5, all square going into the last 2. Warrington certainly got the 11th for sure. Warrington was just too fit and too strong, and in the 12th I felt that Warrington won that round also, so at the end of it I had it 7-5 on my card, which of course is 115-113, which I believe one of the judges, I think, had that same score, 1 or 2 of them anyway. I mean, I always felt that fight there, Warrington would be the guy that had the stamina late on, so I felt that Warrington would probably have quite a lot in the tank and be able to win some of those later rounds. But when he started fast, he really, I think, took Selby by surprise, really, and it was just a hard fight from the moment, really probably from the 2nd round. As soon as that cut opened, it was just such an uphill battle for Lee Selby. So I'm gutted for Lee. Of course, I'm a huge fan of his. He's been on this show many times, and it's a very sad way for him to lose his belt there against a man that was very distasteful in the build-up, and to be honest, didn't even really send any apologies out afterwards for some of his fans' disgusting behaviour, really, in the build-up. Let's make no bones about it. But yeah, before we move on from this one, Mimi, I know that you watched this one. I know that you also watched it, Ayaz. I'm going to come to you first, Ayaz. What did you make of Warrington's win over Lee Selby?
I think it's a very, very good win. Obviously, last week in the show, I said that I personally think Selby was going to win the fight. I admit it myself. Yeah, I go, yes, Selby's going to win the fight. I think Selby will outbox him, but well done to Josh Warrington. This is a huge win for him in the career. I remember I saw something on Lee Selby's Twitter. He said that I think he's been fighting at featherweight, so it's for too much. So I think he's going to move up to super featherweight. You think the weight's not for him at the moment? He's going to move up. Now, obviously, Josh Warrington, he's won the world title belt of Lee Selby. He's going to be in some big fights, but I've got to say, what a performance in front of his hometown, in his favourite stadium, Ellen Road, and in front of the Kaiser Chiefs. So well done to Josh Warrington for winning the belt.
Absolutely. And Mimi, if you want to say a couple of words on this one before we move on.
Basically, I want to reiterate what you said. Selby was the favorite going in. Warrington really came out, and he came to win. He came to get that belt, and it seemed to me like clearly he outboxed Selby, and Selby just didn't have a response for really much of what he was doing. Selby was all banged up. Granted, those cuts were from headbutts, but it was just a terrible, terrible situation. And like you said, the corner did not do a good job of stopping the blood, which could also, impair their vision and make it harder for them to fight. There were just so many things like going against Selby that night. I'm not saying, on another night, Warrington wouldn't have won. Clearly he was a better boxer, but the better man won that night, and congratulations to Warrington.
Yeah, very well said. I echo those sentiments. As a boxer, I actually like the guy, and I wish him well for the future. I mean, he can now be in some real mega fights, and with Frank Warren, it seems like it's working. It seems like he's happier than he's ever been, actually. So, credit to the pair of those guys. I did ask on Twitter what Lee Selby should do from here, because the way I actually see it now, and we've got to be honest, of course, he's a Welsh boxer, which unfortunately has always been kind of a hard sell with the British public. It seems like, I don't know what it is, but the Welsh boxers have always kind of struggled, really. I mean, aside from Calzaghe, but there's guys like Enzo Maccarinelli who I don't think got the credit. There's guys like Barry Jones who I don't think got the credit. And Lee Selby, I mean, even Nathan Cleverly I don't really think had the credit when he was reigning. But Lee Selby, he just didn't really have that fan base. So he doesn't really have a huge fan base. He never really had that. And what I really wanted to know is, where does Selby go from here? Because, of course, he hasn't got any major promoter. He hasn't got a TV network behind him. He's now got no belt, and he's very, very tight at this featherweight limit. Like you mentioned, Ayaz, I think he's since decided that he's going to move up to super feather. So my question was, what does he do next? Some people said he's still with Al Heyman. Well, I said that he may be with Al Heyman this weekend, but will he be with him tomorrow? Meaning that now he's lost the belt, will Al Heyman just bin him off? And someone said to me, well, and I can't remember the guy's name, but somebody said to me, well, what, so you mean that he would just get rid of him because he hasn't got a belt? And I'm saying, but he wasn't interested in Lee Selby until he won the belt. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when he won the belt, all of a sudden, Al Heyman was interested. Now he's lost the belt. Al Heyman may not have any more time for Lee Selby. He's got a huge stable of fighters himself. But some of the people that did reply, this one was from Nathan Muse. He says that Lee Selby doesn't really have the punching power to move up. I'm hoping this was a one-off for Lee Selby, and hopefully he comes again. Now, I think that that's quite a fair thing to say. Lee Selby, I mean, I probably think he probably should go up, to be honest. I think he thinks that as well now, but at the time, I liked that answer. Jake Erdley on Twitter says that he should re-sign with Eddie Hearn and make his career in America, in my opinion. Now, I'm not quite sure if those two things work hand in hand, but then again, Eddie Hearn, of course, with this big announcement about the DAZN thing, perhaps Lee Selby could be, part of that. Maybe so. So that's a good shout there. One guy called, this is at Doug L16. Very harsh, this one. He should retire. I felt that was quite harsh. And also from at JCho88, he says he's got to move up to super featherweight. I never understood why Stephen Smith fought at a higher weight than him. Very, very, very true. Like you say, Ayaz, it looks like he is moving up to super feather. So, of course, we wish Lee Selby all the very best with that endeavour. Moving over now, though, from Leeds all the way over to the MGM National Harbour in Oxon Hill, Maryland, USA. On the undercard, though, Gary Antoine Russell picked up a knockout in round 1 against Wilmer Rodriguez, so he now moves to 6-0. Gary Antoine Russell, of course, the younger brother of Gary Russell Jr., and the other younger brother of Gary Russell Jr., Antonio Russell, he moved to 11-0. It was a TKO for him in round 5 of a scheduled 6 against his man Jonathan Ramos, 17-21 now with 4 draws. Gary Russell Jr. was on our show last week, and he told me that he'd be very disappointed if he didn't get the knockout against Joseph Diaz. Of course, the record's going in 28-1 Gary Russell Jr. and 26-0 Joseph Jojo Diaz. It was for the WBC World Featherweight title, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds in favour of the champion. He remained the WBC World Champion, and of course, Joseph Diaz served up his first loss as a professional. Walk us through this fight, Mimi. I know that you watched this one, and it wasn't shown over here, so unlucky for us. We didn't get to see it, but I'm hearing it was a fantastic fight. Talk about it for us, please.
The fight was great. Russell, we saw a lot of aggressiveness from Russell. Russell came out, very aggressive. He established his jab. His jab was his go-to punch in this fight, and within good reason. He was keeping Diaz on the defense, and he was not letting him, get aggressive towards him at all. Basically, in my opinion, I feel like Russell, obviously, he did win the fight, but I feel also that he won the fight because you know how sometimes we don't necessarily agree with what the judges, throw out there. So basically, Russell was just very aggressive. He kept Diaz on the back foot. It was just him landing jabs, combos. He was just landing practically at will on Diaz. And then we saw Diaz, he landed a couple, nice body shots and, some nice right hooks. And, he landed some combos as well. But it just seemed like Diaz never got out of, third gear, to say. He only went to third gear, and he just was not, with all of the offense that Russell had going, he could just not get in there. He had a hard time picking and choosing, when to, get on the offense himself. And every single round, pretty much in the beginning, Russell dominated the rounds. Like, he dominated in an incredible fashion. So basically there was a lot of just a lot of jabbing combos from Russell landing at will. Russell was, we also noticed that Diaz was not cutting off the ring, and he just needed to be busier, and he just never took off during this fight. At the most, I gave Diaz about 3 rounds with this fight. There was some swelling eventually coming from Diaz because, he was getting hit quite a bit. And then we saw Russell, kind of, slow down a little bit, but it was already towards the end of the fight. And like I said, Diaz tried to pick up, and he could never really truly take off. There was just a lot of, Diaz was it just seemed to me like Diaz could not understand, just didn't really have an answer for what Russell was throwing at him. And Russell just was basically outboxing him. He was dancing circles around him, and, but Diaz, credit to him, because he did not quit and he did not get frustrated. He remained calm, even though, he obviously, got the worst end of any exchanges that they had throughout the fight. Diaz was trying to attack the body because I'm pretty sure that he, saw, Russell's fight with Lomachenko, and that's basically, where how he beat, Gary Russell Jr. was through a lot of the body shots, and he knows that Gary Russell gets uncomfortable with body shots. He tried to, get that going, but, Russell just had a lot going on. Russell was just coming at him constantly. Let's just talk about the conditioning of Russell. Like, Russell has amazing conditioning, and because these are smaller guys, they can throw punches and bunches and still not get tired like that. And, he just was really impressive, for him to fight just once a year. We get our annual, Gary Russell fight. He just shows no sign of ring rust. Russell doesn't have ring rust. What's ring rust? He has no idea what it is. He's just amazing from the beginning to end. You basically just see Russell had his way with Jojo Diaz. And I was rooting for Jojo Diaz because, I feel like, it would be nice to have, because I know Jojo Diaz would be more active with with his belt. But unfortunately, it wasn't Diaz's night. And I do feel like this could be a great learning experience for Diaz as well. Congratulations to Gary Russell Jr. on a very smart, very tactical fight.
Very well said once again, Mimi, there. Like I say, we didn't get to see that one, so thank you for bringing us up to speed professionally. Talking about the predictions, Ayaz, from last week, I went with a Stevenson knockout. Of course, that didn't happen. No one went with a draw, by the way. You went with Jack to win on points. So did the listeners, so nobody gained the point there. We all went with Selby on points, despite some of the listeners voting for, or certainly wanting, Josh Warrington to win, but everyone went for Selby on points, so no one got a point there. And then all 3 of us, myself, you, and the listeners' eyes, all going with Gary Russell Jr. on points. So we've all gained 1 point there, which hasn't really made much of a difference in terms of course, the how far ahead each person is. But yeah, we all gain +1 there. Coming down to the last fight to mention of the reviewing, we have over in Japan, I believe this one happened last Sunday. Heki Budla, that's the former minimum weight world champion. He moved up in weight to take on the world light flyweight champion Ryoichi Taguchi, who was actually the IBF and WBA super world light flyweight champion. So 2 belts on the line. Heki Budla, I believe, was also the underdog. Well, anyway, he put on a fantastic boxing display. He moved to 32-3. He took the champion's belts here. It was a unanimous decision over 12 rounds. So Ryoichi Taguchi now 27-3 with 2 draws, dethroned of 2 of his world titles. And also on the undercard, Hiroto Kyoguchi. He fought for the IBF world minimum weight title. I think it may have been his belt, actually. Anyway, he was able to dominate over 12 rounds, a unanimous decision to him. He took on, by the way, the previously undefeated Vince Paraz, who was 13-0, now 13-1. So Hiroto Kayaguchi could be a name for the future. Of course, he's down at minimum weight, but he's now 10-0, double figures, undefeated world champion. All the very best to everybody that we've mentioned there, from Japan to Australia, from the UK to Turkey to Spain to the United States, and of course to Mexico. But yeah, just before we wrap up the reviewing, I just want to mention that we will be doing a competition later on in the show. We will announce the winner, but just for you guys, Ayaz and Mimi, get your thinking caps on. We're looking for the best knockout of 2018 thus far, so have a little think about that, and we will come on once again about that later on in the show, just before we end. But as we end part one, there is one last thing to do. That, of course, is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cork's very own middleweight contender, Mr. Spike O'Sullivan. Spike, welcome back on the show, my man. It's been a little while.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, pleasure to be back on.
Hey, it's my pleasure every time. So, Spike, we actually haven't spoke since September 2017. Obviously, in that time, you've had 3 fights since we last spoke. All 3 have been knockout wins. The first one against Nick Quigley, the second one against a fellow big puncher in Antoine Douglas, which was, some people, kind of saw that as a bit of a 50-50 fight beforehand. And of course, the most recent win to Berlin Abreu, in which he decided to quit on his stall after 3 rounds just a couple of weeks back now. Please, if you can, Spike, just give me a sentence or 2 on each fight, but especially the most recent one, because that's the only one I haven't seen yet.
Well, the first one was with Nick Quigley. He's a good, tough fighter,
That was a war. That was a good fight.
Yeah, he had a good record. I spoke to him after the fight. Very nice guy. Told me he trained the hardest of his career for that fight, and he came to cause an upset, but and he dug deep, and but it wasn't to be from on the night, and ended up the ref stopped him. I think in the 4th round, and Anton Douglas. Yeah, I went into that one actually as the underdog, and the bookies and the bookmakers had him significant favourite, but I think Golden Boy thought that he might beat me too, and I was kind of the way a fighter on that one, but I won anyway, and progressed on to fight in LA there 2 weeks ago, I think, almost 2.5 weeks ago, against Berlin Abreu, and he succumbed to a bit of punishment in the first 3 rounds and didn't get off stool for the 4th.
Like I say, Spike, I haven't actually seen anything of that Berlin Abreu fight. Was it just a one-way kind of beat down? What was it like?
Well, I definitely won every round. He threw a few back. He threw a flurry back in the 2nd round, but I felt as though he did carry a bit of power. In his 14 wins, he had 11 inside the distance. But it was his first time moving up to middleweight. I think it's a bit of a tough task, a big ask for him moving up to middleweight. His first fight at middleweight, fighting me, hard-hitting middleweight. I don't think it was a great move for him, but I think it was a good payday for him. So I think that's why he took the risk, and didn't pay off for him, fortunately for me.
And his only loss was to Sammy Vasquez, who was a guy that was had quite a buzz around him really for quite a while, and he got him out of there in 4. So for you to do it practically in 3 is quite a statement, regardless of the fact he was moving up in weight. Now, of course, you fought on May the 4th, but you were also very much in the picture to be Golovkin's opponent for May the 5th. Now, it seemed to me like Golovkin's team were kind of juggling 2 or 3 names around, and with your already scheduled fight the day before, you didn't really have the time to be messing around. You needed a definitive answer to which Golovkin's team at that time couldn't really give you. I could be completely wrong, but that's what it looked like to me. But tell us, Spike, what actually happened?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, Joey. They were jumping around a few names at the time, and they verbally kind of suggested that they might give me the fight, but I never had the contract at that point, and I already had an agreement with Golden Boy to fight on the 4th, and I told him that I did want to fight on the 5th of May. I wanted to fight Golovkin, but came to just over 3 weeks before the fight, and the offer still wasn't made officially from Golovkin's team. So Golden Boy said, "Look, listen, you got to commit to this ESPN on 4th of May, or else you might lose your spot." And they gave me a really good deal financially, and a 3-fight deal to make sure that I was going to participate on the 4th of May, and I had to commit to it, and I did, and I'm glad I did, because I'll be looking to fight on the undercard of Golovkin and Canelo in September. That's what's going to happen, I believe, and I get to fight the winner of Golovkin and Canelo anyway. So from a business perspective, it was a no-brainer to me and my team.
It's good to have that cleared up because there was a lot of rumours going around about money and all these reasons, all these other reasons why you didn't fancy that fight. But to hear it from the horse's mouth, of course, is the best thing. You always kind of manage to have a feud with someone, Spike. I know that you've had previous, beef, if you like, with Anthony Ogogo, with Chris Eubank Jr. That this time, not with a boxer, but it seems like you've kind of locked horns a little bit with Dan Rafael. He had a lot to say about his rumours that he'd heard about why you didn't fancy that fight. What's gone on there, and why is he someone that it seems everyone is kind of sick of at times?
Well, yeah, I think...
you really did give it to him, to be honest, Spike.
Yeah, I think he deserved it, I think he's very disrespectful to, athletes and the boxers, guys that are basically putting their life on the line. I mean, you just got to take one look at him and he's, what else could I say? But, he doesn't... I don't know. He's a guy he shouldn't be really talking about guys that are in the ring putting their life on the line. I don't think particularly well. He definitely shouldn't be criticising them, and they call him kind of cowards. He's calling me a coward. I meant him, but a coward. And they'll prove that. And I think I've proved it already anyway. But I'll certainly prove in the future when I do fight the winner of Golovkin and Canelo. And I'm very much far from a coward. I didn't like that comment. So it pissed me right off, and so I said I'd fucking, take him to task on it, and I think he actually didn't give me the best report anyway, again, after this fight against Abreu, so I spoke to him at the fight, and, I kind of, tried to be the bigger man and call a bit of a piece on it, but, I wasn't too, happy about his report on the fight, so I think I might just leave him to fuck off now in the future. I mightn't speak to him anymore.
Fair enough. Now, you kind of answered this question here, but I was going to say I saw an article a couple of months back saying that due to the deal that you'd signed with Golden Boy, you'd be fighting Canelo in September originally, and that was, from my understanding, regardless of his outcome on May 5th against Golovkin. Now, obviously, that was before Canelo failed the drugs test. It was before the fight fell through on May the 5th, but Where does that leave you, Spike? You're now saying that it looks like those guys are going to perhaps fight in September, and you're now going to have to wait for them to fight to perhaps get the winner in, I'm guessing, 2019. Is that accurate?
Yeah, possibly. I think Canelo only fights around twice a year now, as far as I know. I think he fights on both the Mexican holidays, both in May and September, but Golovkin wins maybe him in December, providing he's not too smashed up from fight with Canelo. I'm not 100% sure on all that really, but I think they're going to strike a deal anyway between the two of them, and they're going to get that fight on, and I'll be looking to fight the winner and providing I win my fight on their undercard.
Right, I see. And that is that literally a definite thing? So you will fight the winner no matter what, providing it's not a draw or something crazy like that again? Yeah,
well, that's what I agreed to. That's the offer Golden Boy gave me before the Golovkin fight fell through, and to commit to the 4th of May fight on ESPN. So I done that, so that's what I believe is going to happen, yeah.
So providing it all goes well for your fight in September against an opponent that is yet to be announced, you will probably be facing either Golovkin in December or perhaps Canelo next May. That's right.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on when the date will be exactly. It could be, but I'm not 100% sure. But the main thing anyway is that I get the winner.
Yeah, of course. Now, I want to ask you this now. If that fight does perhaps happen, like we all are hoping for it to happen, who do you believe will win, and who do you want to win from a selfish point of view? Because obviously, if you face the winner, it's a bigger fight, really. If it's Canelo, I'm guessing, in terms of the money and all that.
Yeah, I've got mixed emotions about this because I went to see Golovkin the next night after my own fight in the Soho. I went to see him and I watched him and I thought maybe he's slipping a little bit. Possibly. No, in saying that, I don't know if he probably didn't give his best performance the opponent he had, I don't think he was fully up for the fight, and he was being a bit cautious. Maybe like myself the night before against Brew, it was a fight that neither of us could kind of afford to lose in those fights, So I think, both myself and Golovkin could perform better than we did on the Friday and Saturday nights, But I've always said I'd like to fight Golovkin. I think stylistically he suits me, and I'd love to be the one to take his own, And I don't think I'm going to get that opportunity. I think Canelo's going to beat him. That's what I think is going to happen. But as you say, financially it's better for me maybe if Canelo wins. But so I've mixed emotions. I've always wanted a Golovkin fight and to take his own. I think I can beat him. I've always said I believe I could beat him. And but the Canelo, I think I'm going to fight Canelo because I think Canelo's going to beat him this time.
Okay, well it seems all good anyway. I mean, if either one wins, which I'm sure one winner will be decided come September or whenever it does happen, then you're certainly in the mix. So it's a big fight either way. So it's good news for yourself and of course your fans. We haven't spoke since Andy Lee's retired. Obviously, you and him were certainly the two best middleweights Ireland had at the time. Were you happy or sad when he decided to hang up his gloves, Spike?
Didn't make much difference to me, really. I don't think we were ever going to fight anyway, So it didn't really make much of it. I suppose I stared the pal away from me because me and him were kind of rivals to get Danny Jacobs fight at one point. So we were kind of rivals for the big fight in that we were possible if the promoters were looking for an Irish contingent, that he was a rival to me in getting those fights. So maybe it was a good thing for me that he retired and put me in line for the bigger fights without a rival to rival me for getting the fights, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now we asked some of our followers and some of your followers on Twitter to send in questions for you. Now we've got a couple that I'm going to read out here. Some were not very sensible, which we cannot read out, unfortunately, but some were quite good. And this one is from @Ricey_SUFC. He says, how do you think you've improved as a boxer since the loss to Eubank, and do you think the new improved Spike would be able to beat the Eubank that beat you?
Okay, yeah, I definitely more improved. I've improved since then. Just been more dedicated to my training and my diet, and I think I'm better all around really, and in the gym more consistently. And yeah, I think, he hasn't improved much since then. He might have went backwards with the feet, the groves. I think it was bad for him too. And I feel as though if we met now, I'd fight differently, and I believe I would win, yeah.
Absolutely. And this one is from @VarnaMWV707. Quite a mouthful, that name there. He says, I would like to hear what achievements Spike is most proud of in his career, and I would like to hear about his early life and what led him into being the fighter he is today. Wow, this is quite a question. I would like to hear his advice for overcoming adversity. Thank you, and happy to see Spike on the show. So kind of 3 mini questions in one there, Spike, so take it away.
Okay, I suppose I can't be confused the long question.
He said, what achievement are you most proud of in your career thus far? Not just your career, I guess, life in general.
Well, I think the Anton Douglas fight was a good one on a massive platform of HBO, and I was the underdog in that fight, and not a lot of people thought I was going to win, but I think he would have beaten the former Spike before I became more consistent in my training and stuff like that. And he fancied the job, but he came up against a new and improved Spike, and so I thought that was a pretty good achievement, in my career.
Well, that is a very honest answer. I like that. And also, he says, I would like to hear about his early life and what led him to being the fighter he is today. It's kind of a hard question to answer, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I started boxing at a really young age. My father introduced me to boxing at only 5 years of age. I started training kind of properly at 5, and I gradually, got into sparring, and I trained in some tough gyms in Ireland, and I learned the hard way. Starting out in the gyms young, and I was up against the fighters who are a little bit older than me. So I think that has contributed to make me a tough kind of fighter I am today.
And he'd like to hear your advice for overcoming adversity, Spike. You've overcome much adversity, to be honest, in your career thus far. What's your advice, the best way to deal with something like that?
You know, obviously you get down over if you have a loss, you get down about it, you know, but that time shall pass as well, and I like that saying, this too shall pass, you know, and if you're feeling down after things, that'll pass by too, and, you know, but also if you win, that'll pass by too, and another time will come, you know, just not to get too carried away, or get down too low about losses or up too high about wins, and just try and stay on the, you know, an even mental position, and just, you know, continue to train to the best of your ability and improve. Well,
yeah, very well said. And this one came, Spike, and I'm not quite sure if we can read this one out. It's from @SpikeMum-in-law. This account's absolutely crazy, Spike. I'm sure you've probably seen some of the tweets that they put out.
Yep. Right.
Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it says, you and Wayne Rooney share a passion for grabbing grannies. Is it truly like opening a toasted cheese sandwich?
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'll refrain down to that one. I get the head shattered off me with a mother-in-law.
Thank you @SpikeMum-in-law for that one there. We did read it out in the end, even though I was a little bit hesitant. Right, that's it for the Twitter questions from all the people there. So thank you to everybody who sent theirs in. Maybe sometime soon we can sit down and do a proper Q&A and let a lot more people send their questions in, Spike. So yeah, maybe that's one for the future. The last question I'll throw at you, actually. Of course, your good friend Billy Joe Saunders will be fighting Martin Murray on June 23rd at the O2 Arena. Firstly, will you be there? Secondly, I'm sure you're backing Billy Joe to win, and win quite well, to be honest.
Well, I won't be there. I think I'm on holiday that day with my partner and my kids. You know, I'm actually good friends with Martin Murray also. I sparred Martin and before he fought Golovkin, and Martin's a tough fighter, and I think he should have been world champion himself in the past. I think he got some dubious decisions, you know, against Stormy. You know, Stormy definitely won that fight, and arguably against Sergio Martin as well, possibly. You know, so he's no mug, Martin Murray, but Billy Joe Saunders on his day is you know, the man to beat, in my opinion, in the middleweight division. I think he's the very best. You know, on his night, I think he can beat absolutely anybody, and so I think it's going to be a tough night for Martin to beat Billy Joe. And I think Billy Joe will remain the champion.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really see Martin Murray really at this stage of his career pushing Billy Joe too much at the minute. I think Billy Joe, I mean, if you're, you know, if that saying's true, you're only as good as your last performance, then Billy Joe's win over Lemieux that night when you were on the undercard, that was such a brilliant win. The way he just completely negated what David Lemieux did was just quite unbelievable. And that's really it, Spike. I mean, if there's anything else that I haven't asked, or, you know, anything that you want to get off your chest at all before we let you go.
No, that's it. I better get in and start watching Netflix with my missus before I get a few clouts off her as well as the mother-in-law.
Okay, listen, Spike, it's always a delight and a pleasure, my friend. You know that. Thank you, as always, for your time, and we shall catch up again very soon.
Yeah, thank you, Joey. Pleasure speaking to you, and speak to you again soon.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. As always, we go first to Ayaz with the latest boxing news. Ayaz, take it away.
So Tyson Fury's fight has been announced on 9th of June, where he will fight Sefer Seferi.
Yes, Sefer Seferi. Actually, this guy here, I mean, I'm going to give Tyson Fury a pass because, like I say, he's been out the ring now for, I think it's been 2.5 years, something like that, come fight night. So we've got to give the guy a pass. I mean, some people are saying, why didn't they just chuck him in with someone like Povetkin? It just doesn't work like that, man. For God's sake, you can't expect him to be in there with a world beater. But I've got no problem. If he even wanted to come back against a complete journeyman, I'd have no problem. But he's taking on a guy here called Sefer Seferi. He's not a well-known name, of course. He's from Albania, but he actually was born in Macedonia and he lives in Switzerland. So he's a man of three national countries almost. He's 39 years of age. His nickname is The Real Deal, but of course he's certainly no Evander Holyfield. One thing that he does have in common with Evander Holyfield is that he pretty much has been a cruiserweight. He's moved up recently. The first time he really properly stepped up was in 2016. He took on Manuel Char for the WBA International Heavyweight title. He lost that fight over 10 rounds on point, so he's never been stopped. But even though he's been a cruiserweight for most of the time, he's now at heavyweight. He comes in light, so you'd expect him to have the speed, and also he's got 21 knockouts in his 23 wins, so his record is 23-1. Listen, I've got no problem with that fight whatsoever. I really, really don't. He's actually had his hand in promoting as well. He's actually managed to promote 7 shows himself, so he's also got a business brain, and I'm sure that's probably why he's taking this fight. But I don't know too much more about him. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the most, I don't know, interesting opponent or one of my top opponent selections for Tyson Fury, but I'm certainly giving the big man a pass on his comeback fight.
Yep, and finally, Joe Joyce will return on June the 15th at York Hall with an unnamed opponent.
Is it definitely at York Hall, yeah?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I will be there for that one, I'm sure. I mean, like I say, we don't yet know who he's fighting, but it's great that he's staying active, which he has been doing really well, to be honest. I think he made his pro debut in October, and this will be his 5th fight. So what's that? That's so that'll be June. So that's a 6 months. So 8 months, and he's had he would have had 5 fights. So I'm happy with that. They're all at decently high levels. If he's going to be defending his Commonwealth strap, then hopefully it's against an opponent that we've heard of. And I wish him all the best for sure. Is that it for the news, Ayaz, yeah?
Yes, that's it for the news.
Okay, well, later on tonight, there is a fight to mention. This one, of course, later tonight. Thursday, the 24th of May, 2018. We have a fight happening in Australia, actually. A guy called Jack Brubaker. I think that's how it's said. His record 13-2 with 1 draw. He takes on our very own Tyrone Nurse, 35-3 with 2 draws. This guy Brubaker, I don't know anything about him, to be honest, but I'm sure. I mean, I'd be very surprised if he was able to get one up on Tyrone Nurse, a man that has really been battle tested. Domestically for sure. He's a very, very good fighter, Tyrone Nurse. I'm not sitting here and saying he's a complete world beater. He isn't, but he's a very tough guy for anybody. So I'm expecting Tyrone Nurse to get the job done there, and of course we wish him all the very best. Also on that bill, the son of former world champion Kostazou, Tim Tszyu, his record now 8-0. He takes on Larry Siwu, who's 27-10. That one's for the WBC Asian Boxing Council Continental Super Welterweight title. Boy, oh boy. All the very best to Tim Tszyu. Moving over now, again, this one happening later tonight also. In Haiti at the Portal Prince, we've got Rodrigo Mejia, his record 14-10 with 3 draws. He puts I think it's his belt, but anyway, the belt on the line, the WBA Fedelatin Super Welterweight title. In the other corner, former opponent of, I think it was Jamal Charlo now, Wilkie Camphert, friend of the show, 24-3 his record. Very, very, very nice guy, Wilkie Camphert. I wish him all the very best there. Moving over now, though, to Friday, tomorrow. So this fight here, you may not have heard the podcast in time before this fight happens, because it will be starting. If you are listening, if you've seen the fight and now you're listening, then fair enough. But for those that have listened tonight, Thursday night before this fight, remember to set your alarm or set your not alarm, I suppose you'd probably be awake, but set your Skybox up to record on this one, because it starts at 1 p.m. UK time. It's not on Sky Sports Main Event, it's on Sky Sports Action, I believe, or Arena. I get confused between the two, but this one happening in Tokyo, Japan. Jamie McDonnell, our very own, 29-2 with one draw, puts his WBA World Bantamweight title on the line against Naoya Inoue, 15-0. Inoue, of course, in the pound-for-pound top 10 discussions for sure. An absolute animal he seems to be. That's a 12-rounder there. The main event, though, Kenshiro, 12-0, puts his WBC World Light Flyweight title on the line against Ganigan Lopez, who's 29-7. Just before we move on, actually, Ayaz, I want to get this out there quickly. We're going to go to the prediction league on this. Jamie McDonnell against Inoue, of course. Jamie McDonnell, the masterful boxer, the much, much, much bigger man. Very confident as well. When I spoke to him a few weeks back, we spoke after the interview on the phone for a little bit, and I tell you what, that guy is seriously confident that he's going to do a job on this. Very hyped up, but I suppose untested at some of the higher weights, especially against someone like Jamie Mack, who can box to a perfect game plan. The predictions, though, the listeners being very, very harsh on our man. The listeners are actually going with Inoue by knockout, 44% going with that. Next in line, though, 24% McDonnell on points. So, Ayaz, how do you see that one playing out?
I'm going to have to be honest with you. Obviously, Inoue is a very big puncher as well. And they say he's one of the pound for pound. If I'm going to go for the win, I'm going to have to go with Inoue by knockout as well.
Oh man. Now, I feel like I'm doing him a disservice, really, because I want to be ballsy and go with him, but I'm not quite sure, because this guy, if he is what they say he is, then I'm expecting him to do a real job on Jamie Mack. But the one thing that we need to remember is Jamie McDonnell's never been stopped. He's only lost twice, of course. He's gone unbeaten for about 10 years now. In fact, over 10 years now. So yeah, I think that we. Do you know what? I'm gonna go with an Inoue points win. I could be completely wrong, but I just don't want to see Jamie Mack get knocked out. I really hope, of course, that he can do it, and I'm sure that you echo that as well, Ayaz, but it's such a tough ask, because this guy is supposed to be the absolute mustard, and I haven't seen too much of him. I'm going to hold my hands up there. I really hope that Jamie can, get well paid, and I'd love to see him take that belt back to Doncaster. All the very best to him and the whole team. Of course, they're all out there. I think even Anthony Fowler's flying out there to get ringside for that one. All the very best to Dave Caldwell as well. What else do we have? Moving over now to Poland at Warsaw. This one is at the Stadion Narodowy. I think I've done that quite well. A couple interesting fights to mention on this one, actually, Ayaz. Mariusz Wach, 33-3, takes on Eric Molina, 26-5. Of course, we know Molina. He's been over here for Joshua, and he's had a few other big fights, of course, Deontay Wilder. But Mariusz Wach, like I say, in the other corner. Like I say, this one in Poland. And also on this bill, a guy that I've always really struggled to pronounce his name, but his name is something like Izwagbi Ogono, 17-1. That one loss coming to Dominic Brazil in that absolutely fantastic fight Brazil was involved in. I've got a feeling it was on one of Deontay Wilder's undercards now. I think it was the fight where Dominic Brazil had the post-fight scuffle in the hotel room with Deontay Wilder's team. Well, anyway, Ogono takes on Fred Cassie, a former opponent of Hughie Fury. Ogono, I should say, 17-1. Fred Cassie, 18-7. And also Artur Szpilka, another man that, of course, has been in there with Deontay Wilder. His record 20-3. He takes on Dominic Gwynn, who has definitely seen better days. 35-11 with one draw now. But Dominic Gwynn is a guy that, if you're a little bit half-hearted, if your heart's not completely in it, he will turn up and expose you. So, quite an interesting little bill there, actually, for Poland. A real heavyweight showcase, card there, and all three heavyweights there, all Polish. So I quite like that bill, to be honest. If I can get a stream for that, I will be tuning in. Moving over now, though, to Quebec, Canada. What do we have over here? One or two fights to mention. It is just the one. David Lemieux, 38-4. He fights for the WBC Francophone middleweight title, and the WBC international middleweight title. In the other corner, Karim Achor, who's 26-4 with 3 draws. Do you know what? We haven't seen David Lemieux, of course, since he got a complete boxing lesson against our very own Billy Joe Saunders. I'm not quite sure how exciting he can be now, because he was so bad that night and his excuses afterwards were so poor. And I just don't know if I'm that interested in him anymore, unfortunately. One thing that is for certain is that he's an absolute power puncher, but this guy Achor has never been stopped, like I say, and he actually hasn't lost since 2013. But I do want to mention he lost once upon a time in 2012 to Martin Murray, who was undefeated at the time. That was over points, of course. So all the best to David Lemieux. If he gets a knockout, then it certainly is impressive. He's still only 29, Lemieux. I always think he's a bit older. Moving over now, though, to the Dolphin Centre in Darlington, County Durham, United Kingdom. I'm sure they haven't got any dolphins there, so I'm not quite sure why it's called that. But one man to mention on this bill, Thomas Patrick Ward, 23-0. Still a young guy, actually. I don't know if he's still got the British title, but he's in a 6-round contest. His opponent yet to be announced. Also at the Corn Exchange in Ipswich, Suffolk, United Kingdom, we have one fight to mention over here as well. Who's on it? Oh yeah, Liam Walsh, 21-1. We haven't seen him since he got stopped brutally by Gervonta Davis. He gets out on this bill. His opponent yet to be announced. And coming down to the final bill to mention, it's happening over in the States at the Cellard Arena in Fresno, California, USA. It's going to be on ESPN+. What do we have over here? Not really the best undercard, but there are 2 kind of main event / co-main event fights here. We've got Cal Yafai, 23-0, defending his WBA World Super Flyweight title against David Carmona, 21-5 with 5 draws. We will go to the predictions on that, Ayaz, as well, actually. The listeners have gone with a Cal Yafai, was it knockout or points? They've gone Cal Yafai on points. 60% going with that. What's your take on that one?
I'm going to go with Cal Yafai knockout. I think he'll win this fight, in my opinion, by a knockout. I'll make a statement to the US.
Yeah, I hope he does, actually. I hope he does make a statement. I'm going to go with a knockout there as well for our man Cal Yafai, a man that, of course, has also been on this show. And the main event, Jerwin Ancajas, the man that absolutely really beat the devil out of Jamie Conlan. His record 29-1 with 1 draw. He puts his IBF World Super Flyweight title on the line against Jonas Sultan, who's only 14-3. Doesn't really look like a fantastic record on paper, but when you analyse and look a little bit deeper, he's coming off a win over John Real Casemiro. That's the guy that beat Charlie Edwards, and he was a really good fighter. And I didn't actually see this fight with Sultan and him, but Sultan was able to win that fight, so Sultan must be pretty good. But I've got to hold my hands up. I've seen absolutely nothing of him, but we know that Jerwin Ancajas is very good, and he also is very impressive. Of course, he's now being promoted by Bob Arum. Ayaz, I'm not going to ask for a prediction on this, but Ancajas, I don't know if you saw that fight with Conlan. He really showed his class, Ancajas. I'm expecting big things of him in the future, of course. A Filipino, very much being motored by Manny Pacquiao.
Yes, I saw the fight against Conlan, Jamie Conlan, and the way he beat him, oh my days, it was very, very bad. I think on Saturday he's going to win the fight, and I think he'll be doing very good style.
I wouldn't expect anything less from him. Just before we wrap up part 2 and bring in our final guest, is there anything that you wanted to say, Mimi, at all? I know that you're not really involved in the prediction league or anything like that, but is there any predictions that you may want to give out that I didn't kind of come to you for at the time?
No, I'm not familiar with those particular fighters that you mentioned.
No, that's fine. Like I say, some of the lower weights, they especially, being from a different continent, most of them, I'm sure they haven't really been shown in the US too often. That's completely fine. But like I say, we have now done the reviewing. We brought you the very first guest. We brought you the latest news. We brought you the previewing. And I almost forgot, but just before we wrap up the show, we've got to do Knockout of 2018. So, of course, the year, isn't even halfway through yet. We're almost coming to the 6th month of the year. We are still in May. Let's talk about some of the biggest knockouts just quickly from 2018. I'm just going to mention the ones that we've had in already. We've had, this one was from Jake Eardley. He says it's got to be Povetkin's knockout against David Price. He hit him for 6, or he's actually gone with 2, which wasn't allowed, but I'm gonna let him off. He went with Dillian White's knockout of Lucas Brown. Night. He's put, that was a devastating knockout, Ayaz, wasn't it? Jesus, 2 great choices.
Oh yes, definite knockout. But I think the one, I got my own personal knockout, but I'm not going to say it. When I'm ready to say it, I'll say it.
No, go on. You can say it. Go on.
Okay, I think the toughest knockout I've seen so far is Danny Garcia against Brandon Rios.
Oh, that was a good one, actually. I forgot about that. No one sent that one in. Mimi, any knockouts coming to the top of your head this year so far?
Actually, I had actually thought about the same ones that you guys already mentioned. The Dillian White versus Lucas Brown. The Lucas Brown knockout was one of the most devastating knockouts I've seen this year, and that's to say, a lot. It was actually kind of scary. The Danny Garcia one was sensational. Like, that just came out of nowhere. It was shocking, and it just caught him perfect and just put him down.
And also sent in from @Luke Grenside. He says Dillian White versus Lucas Brown. That was some vicious knockout. So we've had a few of those. And also from Nathan Muse, another regular listener of the pod. He says Dillian White over Lucas Brown. So a very, very popular one there. Also sent in from @McDonough16. He sends me in actually a street fight. I don't know if he got it a little bit wrong, but he sent in a street fight that Enzo Macronelli had uploaded. So it wasn't actually a professional boxing match, but he sent in his own style of knockout, so credit to him. Thank you for entering there. But Ricey_SUFC was first. He went with Povetkin's knockout of David Price, and he says that first hit and the fact that he was still standing and dazed before he knocks him to the floor was brutal, and I absolutely agree with that. I remember being there ringside. Well, not ringside, actually, I've got to be honest, but I remember being there at the Principality Stadium and seeing David Price get knocked out like that against Povetkin. It was a fight where we just didn't expect it to go out of the first 2 rounds, and when it did, we were, really rooting for Pricey. We all were. And then when Pricey, of course, wobbled him, we were like, oh, hang on, he could really do something here. And then I think it was the following round, night, and it was real bad because, like I say, he was completely out on his feet. He dropped his guard. He didn't know where he was, and I've even actually had to download that on demand on my Sky TV. I've just got it sitting in my planner. I was watching it once again last night because I still cannot believe that I saw that knockout live. It was the most brutal knockout I think I've seen, not just this year, but I'm talking about for a few years. It really was brutal. So for me, I think the T-shirt competition winner was Ricey_SUFC. So Ricey, please send me your address and we shall send out the T-shirt via Ayaz Sumra Mao, as always, and it will be with you within a couple of months. Thank you to all who entered the competition, though. Like I say, we've done the competition. We brought you the review in the preview in the first guest. The second guest is about to come in. So like I say, before we wrap up part 2, let's welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Islington icon, Mr. John Ryder. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So I like the intro. Is it an icon? It's nice.
Yeah, that's
go into it.
I think you should roll with that instead of the gorilla from now on, actually.
Well, I don't know, you have to talk to the people. The powers that be. I can't shift it.
Now, usually I like to ask you where you are, but I know that you've not long been back home since being abroad. I wanted to ask you really, how was the break for you? I know that, of course, it was a very much well-deserved break.
Yeah, do you know what? It was nice. I had a week at home after, just to sort out a few bits. Then we slipped away for a week to Tenerife, and now it's just nice to be back. I've been ticking over in Tenerife, done a couple of runs, done a couple of weight sessions. I'll do more of the same this week. Then I'll be back in the gym punching next week. Just looking to get another date confirmed shortly, hopefully.
And I want to go back to your most recent win. Like I say, the Jamie Cox win. It was really another make or break fight, just like the previous one before that against Patrick Nilsson, which you won by knockout. This was also a make or break fight. Did you feel that going in, John?
Yeah, I did. I felt it maybe even more so because I'm coming off a great win against Nilsson, and I just felt like, to be honest, this game is so shrewd, whereas people write you off after a loss, and a loss don't just defy you, do you know what I mean? Come back, and I've shown that. And yeah, for me, I didn't think there was another rebuilding process in me to come back after a loss. So for me, it would have been curtains on a career if I'd lost to Cox that night.
And the fight itself, you were able to get rid of Jamie in the second round, which, if I get my infamous measuring stick out, was half the time it took world champion George Groves to do it. But because it was such a short fight, please, if you can, just walk us through those 2 rounds from your perspective.
Well, to be honest, I wasn't sure Jamie was going to come out. I thought he might try and box a bit more. I didn't think he'd come straight at me. I thought he'd be a bit more reserved, try and maybe try and counter me a bit more. But no, I was prepared for every outcome, but I just didn't have a clue before the bell went how he was going to come out. But he started fast, he always does, and he just played into my hands, I think. I mean, I hadn't planned on throwing a punch really for the first round. I just thought I'd just try and make him miss, just get the measure of him, get the range. But the punches started flowing sooner than anticipated, and I started to find my range pretty early on.
And I felt that it was more of a make or break fight for you than it was for Jamie. Do you agree with that? And also, if so, where do you think he should go from here? Where can he go from here?
Yeah, cool. Mate, you're right, because a loss at world level is not no bad thing on that, is there? You're up at the elite level. A loss at domestic level is a lot worse for you. And I've had a few losses at domestic level, so yeah, it would have been the end for me. I think, I don't know, he's still yet to fight for a British title. Maybe that's the next in line for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's quite an interesting route, quite a good route really for him now. Now, you appear to be an entirely different fighter since you've moved up in weight, John, and a lot of fighters say to me, you know, my time was done at that weight, I'm going to move up, I'm going to be back to my best again, and most of the time, I've got to be honest, it's complete rubbish what they're saying, but you, honestly, do seem a totally different fighter, and you're not exactly a massive 168 fighter, but what is the difference between you at this weight and you down at 160?
I don't know, Joe. What people say, you should have moved up sooner. But Joe, I think I could have moved up too soon. And I think everything happened at the right time. I'm not the biggest super middle, but I believe that, I don't know, I'm happy at this weight. I'm able to practice things in training, work on things, work on game plan, develop my style, and work on getting fit and not just losing weight. And at 160, that's pretty much all the camp is. You're doing 12 weeks of weight loss. Where now at 168, I'm doing 12 weeks of learning, practicing with weight loss. Where this camp I've got with a strength and conditioning coach in Dan Rafael, which has added to the game. So at 160, I don't think I could have done that. But at 168, I've got more to play with, and I can develop myself more.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to throw in a completely random question now that I've been meaning to ask you for ages, John. You may have been asked this before, but whenever I watch you, and whenever a lot of people watch you, they see you all the time. You tap yourself in the face while you're fighting. Why do you do that?
Jay, I think I want to give them some points on the boxing stats. No, do you know what? I think, I really don't know. Listen, if it irritates people at home, please believe me, it irritates me 10 times more when I watch it back, because I think, what am I doing? What am I getting out of that? What am I doing? But I think it all stems from the amateur days when we had the head guard, and I think that I was constantly just trying to push an head guard up because it would sink down onto your eyes, and I just feel like it's that.
Okay, no, fair enough. I mean, it makes for interesting viewing. You've been doing it lately, and you know you've been starching people really. You've now said that you'd like a world title shot next. Do you believe that you'll be able to land a shot at a title in your very next fight, or are you expecting to perhaps have one more in the meantime?
Joe, I really don't know. I know there's been talk that the Salins have been on about me or Rocky fighting Tyrone Zoiga. If that was to come off, I'd love that, do you know what I mean? But obviously, I know how this game works with eliminators, final eliminators, and do you know what? At the time where I am now, I feel like I've been written off so much. I just feel like I deserve it. I deserve a bit of luck. I've lost a few very close decisions on points that I feel I could have easily got my way. And sometimes you just got to get the rub of the green. And I think now is my time, really. And I think I will get the shot.
And I know that, of course, your fight was only a couple of weeks back. You've only just got off of a plane, so to speak. But have you got any idea at this stage when you're likely to next be in the ring, just roughly? No idea whatsoever. But believe me, I've been away, but I've been running. I've been doing bits of weights. I've been to the gym this morning. I'm ticking over this week. I'm punching. I'm keeping fit. I'm still keeping on top of my strength conditioning. So as long as I've got 8 weeks' notice, I'll fight anytime. And of course, the champion's currently at 168. We've got George Groves. He's kind of tied up with the World Boxing Super Series. We've got James DeGale. We've got Gilberto Ramirez. We've got David Benavidez. The WBA regular champion, as you said, Tyrone Zoiga. The IBF interim champion, Jose Uzcategui. It's unfair to say it, really, but I'd probably identify the weakest of those guys to be Tyrone Zoiga, despite the fact he's undefeated. However, I'd honestly give you a huge chance against the version of DeGale that we've seen in his last 2 fights. Are those the top 2, if you had your own choice?
Yeah, definitely. But you know what? I would fight anyone. That interim champion at IBF, he's a monster.
Yeah, he is.
Don't get it wrong. He's a beast. But listen, I'd fight any of them. I believe that on my day, I can beat any of them. He's a good fighter. He's a proper brute force. But I think he can be outboxed. I just think, or is it Durrell? I just think he's had too many hard fights. I think he's shown in his career. And he's played a dirty game for so long, and for people getting disqualified with the Arthur Abraham fight, he's played a victim for too long, and I feel like that was just a bit of justice done that day when he got stopped by him. But don't get me wrong, he's a good fighter, the Colombian. I don't know if DeGale will be in a rush to face him as a mandatory. I Benavidez is young. I did read somewhere that he might go back down to middleweight, but I can't see it. Ramirez is a monster, and he's a big old lump. But against any of them, I'd genuinely, for a shot at world title, I'd fight any of them.
Yeah, and I believe you, certainly. Those 2 names that I mentioned, though, DeGale and Zoiga. I want to ask you this. I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. If you could only get one of those guys, who would it be? Would it be the all-British showdown and definitely the better money against James DeGale, or would it be the perhaps more winnable fight for less money and maybe even having to travel to take on Zoiga?
Joe, I'll be happy to travel to Germany, and I'd be happy to go and fight him in Germany. But to fight for a world title in England, and it would definitely be in London, would be amazing against a fellow Brit who's achieved what he has. That would be perfect for me. Okay, so that's the one that we are praying for. Well, I can't see it because I don't think I'm not currently not ranked in the IBF, so yeah, true. That would be like winning the lottery. But we'll see what this month's rankings bring up. I don't know what DeGale's. See, I like James DeGale and I respect him as a fighter, and you can't not respect what he's achieved as an Olympian. I've watched him through from the days of the ABA. Do you know what I mean? I was in the same divisions as him coming up as an amateur. He was always like years ahead of me. So it was great to watch him develop and win titles. I was like, you can't help but look up to him. We're at a point now where hopefully a world title fight looms for me, and he's a champion. So I'm looking at everyone. Yeah, for sure. And, he was also the man that broke the mould, of course. We had that bad luck period where no Olympic gold medalist could win a world title. He was the first one to do that, so nothing but respect for him. Is there anything that I may have left out? Is there anything that you want to say at all before we let you go, John? No, I think that's pretty much all covered, isn't it? Okay, well, that was all I had. Any closing words you want to thank anybody at all? No, just thanks to yourself and everyone for sticking by me through the good and the bad. Hopefully we'll get this world title shot and the good continues and we get the win and bring the world title back. God willing, my friend, God willing. But listen, as always, it's my pleasure speaking with you. You know that. Best of luck for what is next with you. We'll certainly keep our eyes peeled and our ears open, and we will catch up again very soon, I'm sure. I look forward to it.
Okay, and that wraps up episode 136 of the BoxHard Podcast. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, John Ryder and Spike O'Sullivan. A big thank you to my panel also, Mr. Ayaz Sumra and Miss Mimi Melendez. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. You've all been fantastic for listening as always. The Prediction League is currently at myself on 36, Ayaz on 39, and you, the listeners, on 40. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Keep following, keep retweeting, liking, favoriting. Please remember, everybody, if you do get a chance, to leave us a review on iTunes. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we shall see you all next week.